Alrighty, guys, welcome in to another edition of Slaughterhouse Sports here, and what a dramatic Saturday we have actually in the month of April. And this case, Nico Iameleava, all right, quarterback formerly of Tennessee. So Nico Iameleava, just say Nico, he pretty much, he ditches Tennessee over contract negotiations, all right? And this saga got pretty wild yesterday when his dad on Twitter disputed Pete Nakos of On3, who was reporting accurately that they were looking for a new deal. And he straight up called Pete Nakos a word that I can't even, he called him the B word, essentially. So he got hot and heavy on Twitter, angry, and for Nico, so there's so much here to unpack about Nico, and I've heard even differing perspectives. But my natural reaction is I'm upset at what Nico did to his teammates, to Tennessee, to the program. Like, that's my first inkling is to get really kind of angry about, not seeing the loyalty of Nico. And he committed to Josh Huepel, and he's the best returning player on the team. And he is a 5-star quarterback. It was his first year starting last year. He had some moments, but really, he did struggle in a lot of games, and Dylan Sampson was a really good running back. I think Brew McCoy even got injured at some parts during the season. They were borderline going to lose several of these football games if not for their defense and if not for their running game, because Nico was very streaky. Even against Alabama, they won that game because Tennessee's defense was, pretty dominant in that contest. And then, they took a 10-0 lead on Georgia, and then they struggled the rest of the game, against Georgia. So Tennessee, they still went to Oklahoma. They still pounded Oklahoma through defense, and, with the transfer portal and, the COVID fifth year, like, I understand that there's going to be very good defenses that are in the SEC. However, Nico at times last year, listen, I still think it was a 10-2 season for Tennessee, but they did struggle at several points, last season. All right, so I will say that. So Nico was an inconsistent player at quarterback, and Nico signed a deal going back to when he was a high school senior that made him the highest paid recruit in the country. But then Nico said, hey, I want to restructure this contract because I'm looking at Carson Beck and the money that Carson Beck is getting at quarterback, and I'm looking at some of these transfers. Even Duke paid Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah, paid Tulane transfer quarterback just a ton of money in the portal. Danny Kalin was another guy who transferred. Haas Henje to Oklahoma State. Walker White went out to Baylor. So there were a lot. Jackson Arnold at Auburn primarily is making a ton of money now. So I understand from Nico's camp, and really after, hearing this out, I understand why Nico would want an updated contract. The timing of it is probably what, really irks me about this is you're going in the spring. And I understand that you want to get paid, and I'm sensitive to, you wanting to make more money. All right. I understand, the frustration actually with Nico and him wanting to get paid. Like, I understand that. But the timing of it, when you're going in the spring camp, you're going into, you're grinding all throughout spring, and then you're just going to ditch your team like 24 hours before the spring game. And also you have dreams dreams of playing in the NFL. So you are making pretty good money. All right, maybe you're making $1 million or $1 million less than some of these other guys, but you are a top five. You are a 5-star quarterback, and as long as you finish out the season healthy, maybe you do have insurance on that contract. You're going to get paid, and then if you have a really good season this year, you can enter into the portal next year or enter into the NFL draft. So I would have had less of a problem if he did this, let's just say, right after the season. All right, because then Tennessee, then it gives more time for this to all take place. The timing of it, you're already so far down the road into the spring game that now you are really putting your entire team and the entire program behind the 8 ball because you pretty much it's the timing of it. This could have happened in fall camp, by the way, right before the season started, and it's the timing of it where it should have been taking place for a long, long time, and then he should have began the holdout before spring practice so that then Tennessee would have a mutual decision to make. So Tennessee, Nico, I think the timing of it is what really irks me about it from Nico's perspective, because it shows like, hey, I went through this entire spring practice, and then for Nico to just ghost Tennessee like this, I understand that he's trying to take care of himself, so it is kind of a touchy situation, but I don't like the quitting on the team over the finances. He has a great opportunity. He is getting paid like a pretty damn good amount of money. I certainly would. Again, like, everybody's situation is very different. So some people are going to say, hey, this is life-changing money. It's a physical and violent game. I'm in the prime of my career in college. I'm in my 20s, or I'm entering into 20 years old. Some people are then going to talk about the draft, but I understand that it's such a violent game, and they could point to guys like Marshawn Lattimore, or they could point to like Matt Barkley, who went on to be a 4th-round pick in the NFL, and your stock could fall very quickly. Within a matter of games, your stock can absolutely drop. Look at Quinn Ewers. He was projected the 1st-round value, and now he's going to be probably a 3rd-round value. So all of that is sound reasoning. It is sound logic. As much as I hate it for Tennessee's perspective to see a quarterback leaving the program right on the heels of finishing spring, and the entire team, you train Nico to be the quarterback for the entire upcoming year, and all of your installation is around Nico, and your whole program is based on Nico playing there and being the centerpiece and being the superstar quarterback. It's very frustrating from a Tennessee fan and a Tennessee coaching perspective to see somebody who you pour so much time into just leave you at the altar. Okay? That part needs to be said. But then on the other side of this, I do kind of see from Nico's perspective, this is the market. I should be getting paid. I'm competitive. I know Carson Beck had a very good season, but like Darian Menson, Jackson Arnold, I accomplished more than those guys, and those guys are now making more money. Now, the thing is, though, even in the NFL, when Nico signs a contract in the NFL, there's always going to be guys that reset the market. Like, look at Patrick Mahomes' deal. Like, it doesn't even look as good. It doesn't even look as good as, when you keep on going down the road, the market continues to get reset. So you signed up for this contract, right? You've had these discussions. And guess what? Like, you were a little bit inconsistent last year at Tennessee. Like, you weren't that superstar quarterback. You still had your struggles against Oklahoma, against Alabama, second half of Ohio State and Georgia, right? So, but then Nico would say, hey, look at Arch Manning. He's making so much money and he's unproven. Look at Jackson Arnold. So I can listen. It's not an easy solution. All right. I believe the timing of it, the way the father went at the reporter, The way the father went at Pete Nakos, I take more offense to, because he straight out just absolutely lashed out at him in what I think is a very inappropriate manner over something that was completely true. All right. So the dad in this makes him look like very high maintenance. Okay. And then if you're an NFL GM and you're considering Nico, when Nico's going to play another year, you're definitely going to ask about this dispute and him kind of quitting and leaving on the team over money. Okay. Now Tennessee could have paid Nico. All right. So from a Tennessee perspective, I don't mind letting him walk, because no one's bigger than the team. You signed on to this contract. You're not a quarterback away from winning a title. Okay. And it's an entitled move a little bit on Nico's part, especially this late in the process. So I don't really have a problem with Tennessee. I don't have a problem with Tennessee not paying him. Now, if you had a great defense and Nico's the missing piece and Nico is incredibly valuable because you're going to win a championship, this is kind of a rebuild year. All right. And again, I just have a problem with the timing of this. Okay. If this were right after the season, you allowed the team to prepare. This is why there needs to be structure in college football. The spring transfer window is a joke in college football. That teams, okay, that you can go through a whole spring of playing together and then you're going to open up another portal again. That's an absolute joke. That's a joke that we have a spring portal, because coaches and players, they don't understand who they have on their roster. They're training guys that are not even going to be on their team. All right. So this isn't even a Nico problem. This is, there's no structure going on in the sport. And everybody is saying this. And again, this is good actually for the sport in a roundabout way. I'm sure people are going to commentate on this, because now, since this is a high profile case and this is happening, the transfer portal window and contracts, all of this will be ironed out now, okay, in terms of how much the guys are getting paid, and then in terms of just free agency happening right after obligatory spring minicamp. It's like in the NFL after rookie minicamp, if you just allow it's like having a free agency right in the NFL right in the month of July. It just doesn't happen. All right. So right after the season, there could be a portal window. But then when you lock into your current team, then when you go to spring practice, like at that point, then you're going to have no portal. That will clear it up, because if Nico didn't have an option of transferring, he's stuck. And then Tennessee could say, hey, are you really going to sit out this year? Then Nico would never sit out this year, because he's not good enough to just go right into the combine, right into the NFL draft. He would be a 5th or a 6th round quarterback in that scenario. So, boy, oh boy. This situation should have been solved. It should have been solved right after the season. That's my verdict on it. Him kind of, the timing of this, him ghosting Tennessee, the process of the way that this family went about doing this from a PR perspective, it was so disappointing. And Tennessee has every right to be like, go walk. And now the pride for Huepel, this is a big boost for the program, because now, again, the guys in that locker room, they want to go to war with somebody that knows that they're going to be there. Right. And that's exactly, they want loyalty. They want people on board. All right. You go for spring practice, you grind together. All right. There has to be some sort of team unity, some sort of loyalty if you're going to have a good football season. And George McIntyre now and Jake Merklinger are quarterbacks that are very, that are going to be very loyal to the team. The spring portal is a mess for college football. It is the catalyst for this problem. This market in free agency is also a problem, because now the market gets reset. But Nico, this is the thing about Nico, that deal that they made going back was a problem because they signed the dotted line and they made that deal. And back then, Nico was the highest paid, but then the market continued to rise. And I understand actually, him and his camp wanting more money. I understand it because frankly, if Jackson Arnold, Carson Beck, frankly, I understand why Nico wanted this. And guess what? Nico then could go to the portal and he is going to get paid a decent sum of money. He should have, if Nico did this after the season, there would be less of a problem. If Tennessee went into spring football and they could get Merklinger and they can also get McIntyre up to speed. If Tennessee now had if Tennessee knew that Nico was leaving, they would look at adding in a transfer quarterback in the winter portal. There should only be a winter portal, okay? So Nico's camp, what's the difference between doing this right before the spring game and doing this right in fall camp? All right, it's probably the portal. And it's the right now it's the I'll tell you what really made it frustrating. It seems like the impulsivity of Nico's camp to do this caused this problem. So for Tennessee and Josh Huepel, this is a power move from Tennessee and Josh Huepel. I like it 1,000%. If you're not in, you're out. You sign the contract, too bad. And guess what? We have confidence in these other quarterbacks. I have confidence in my coaching ability. I totally understand it. And guess what? To Tennessee, it's going to make Tennessee attractive from a transfer portal destination that no one is above the team. The locker room can really rally behind this decision. Okay, the players can get pretty close from this decision. Okay, everybody can kind of bond together over this decision. Okay, and for Josh Huepel and Danny White, this is a power move, okay, from Tennessee. Now for Nico, if I were advising Nico, what would be the best for him? I think Nico still has massive talent. You understand I went 16 minutes. We didn't even talk about really what this player brings to the table. Nico is 6'5". He can throw the football. He can run it. He has big hands. He can throw the football from a high platform. Nico has touch. Nico can make any throw. All right, so he has a massive, massive talent. He has NFL talent at the college level. All right, for Nico, also, look at Josh Huepel, and at Tennessee, you're going to put up big numbers, but Nico's goal is to play NFL football. Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, these guys haven't been really performing great in the NFL yet. So for Nico, I would go to a pro-style offense. I would actually look at UNC. I'd look at Bill Belichick, and I would say, hey, I want to be coached by Freddie Kitchens, Bill Belichick, and this offensive staff. I want to be coached by the greatest of all time. I want to go to UNC, Chapel Hill. All right, I think that Bill Belichick could make a lot of sense. You also look at Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur's called a lot of plays in the NFL. Colorado is going to make sense. UCLA has a very young offensive coordinator, somebody who I really like in Sinceri, who came from that Indiana coaching tree. It's less established than Bill Belichick and then Deion Sanders, but UCLA has a young coaching staff. His brother is playing at UCLA. I understand that. For USC, you don't want to send this message, okay? You don't want to go through camp and Chad Bowden's trying to build a new program. USC should not touch Nico Iameleava. No, because USC right now, that's doing a disservice to Jaden Maeva. It's also doing a disservice to Hassan Longstreet. But if you're a program that needs a shot in the arm, all right, and you don't have an established quarterback coming back, look at Wisconsin, look at Minnesota. These two programs, Wisconsin and Minnesota, Luke Fickell needs a star quarterback and PJ Fleck needs a star quarterback. All right, even look at Maryland. They could use an absolute star at quarterback. So he can't transfer SEC. Those schools in the Big Ten that I mentioned, especially Wisconsin and Minnesota, those two programs can absolutely use a star player, could use a big name like Nico. So Nico's going to have no shortage of places to go because he started big-time football in the SEC. All right, he is going to get paid, and he's going to probably land somewhere pretty good. All right, so if he entered into the winter portal, he would have had more options, but he's still going to have a ton of options. This is good for Tennessee football. This is a rallying cry for Tennessee football. No one's above the power T there in Knoxville, Tennessee. No one's above Tennessee. This is good for the game in terms of offseason drama. This is also good for the sport because more moments like this are going to show that there's no structure in the sport. So guess what? Things are going to get so chaotic to the point where when things are total chaos, eventually there's going to become structure out of this decision. Okay? This decision by Nico and Tennessee is such a high-profile name that the spring portal, okay, and unlimited free agency, you're now going to see contracts because, frankly, contracts are the way to go. It's the way to achieve structure. These guys are professional football players. They are kind of employees right now. That's just where we're at in college sports and college football. So for Tennessee, I give Josh Huepel an immense amount of credit, okay, that they didn't just let Nico and his camp just completely dictate over them. They had a backbone in this because, frankly, to ask for this at this point, to get out of your contract this late in the game, to totally ditch the spring game, to totally go AWOL and to not answer your texts and calls is just that's so inappropriate at this stage in the game. To not be communicating is wrong. And good for Josh Huepel, good for Tennessee. This move will help them in the long run. It'll help their image. It'll help them with future recruits and future commits. They're going to get a bunch of loyal guys, and I bet a lot of people on the team are really satisfied that Nico's not above the team. Because if Nico came back, you know, if he missed the spring game, guys, hi, I'm here now. I bet a lot of players would roll their eyes at Nico coming back because he's selling them out in the locker room. Okay, that's what I bet you would occur. All righty. Unbelievable story, guys. Let me know what you guys think about all this in Knoxville.